In this video, I'm going to share with you the 7 tips that I wish I knew earlier as a photographer. So if you're starting out right now, make sure to stick around till the end. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell in order to be notified whenever there's a new video up on the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Philipp. And I'm a media agency founder and photographer, and I've been working in photography for over 7 years now. And thus I've learned a lot of things about photo shoots in general, some really the hard way. So if you don't want to make the same mistakes that I did, make sure to stick around for my 7 tips that I wish I knew earlier. So starting right into the first tip is gear matters. Even though most people tell you gear doesn't matter, I think there's a slight tweak to that. Gear doesn't matter in general, meaning you don't need like the top tier camera when you're starting out. That's definitely true. But where gear matters is you need to choose the right gear for the stuff that you're trying to do. So it wouldn't make sense to go with a really cheap camera on a nighttime shoot where you need to bump the ISO all the way up because you're simply gonna get just crappy shots. So in my opinion, gear really matters. You need to know what you're working with, but maybe you can also work with cheap gear that does the job for you. So for example, if you're shooting portraits, you can work with the 50mm 1.8 that most manufacturers offer, which gives you like a great look for portraits. You just need to know what gear solves your problem. That's the first thing that I wish I knew earlier when starting as a photographer. So do some research, know your gear, and know what to prep for your shoot in order to fulfill the job that you're trying to achieve. Which brings me to my second tip, is prepare your shoot very, very well. Take your time to put together all the stuff that you need or that you could possibly need. Organize them in your camera bag to have them there right at your side when you need them. This is very important because stuff can get really messy around the shooting if you're in a rush or something. Especially if you're starting out, you might be nervous and then forget where you put your stuff. So be organized and prep your shoot very, very well. Also maybe visit the location ahead of time, check for the weather, check for where the light might come from and all those kind of things. So be well prepared is the second thing I wish I would have known earlier. The third tip I have for you actually is bring a tripod wherever you go. I know tripods are not really sexy like a gimbal or anything, but tripods really can help you out in a lot of situations. So I learned this the hard way because I had to kind of put my camera on my camera bag in order to get some of those shots, like for example long time exposure that make some images so much more exciting than just a regular picture. So make sure to always bring a tripod because it can get handy at some times. So don't make this mistake. I bring a tripod nowadays on every shoot that I go because if there's like the slightest possibility I could need one, I'm happy to have it with me. Tip number 4 is the first thing you should do whenever you start a photo shoot. So it's the first thing that I do whenever I go to a location. I make sure to check all my camera settings, that they are perfectly set, that I'm in the right mode, that I'm shooting raw, that I have my ISO, my aperture and my shutter speed at the same value that I would like to have it, and that my camera is really, really well prepped. Then I take like 1 or 2 test shots around the lighting situations. If I have some strobes with me, I also check those settings. But I really try to breathe and take a minute time to check my settings whenever I start a shoot. This can really help because if you get on a location and are stressed and start to rush, then you might be shooting all the time in the wrong settings and some things might not be repeatable. So make sure to check your settings once, really in a quiet moment. Take a breath, check your settings, and then when you're ready to go, focus and get the shot done. But maybe you already do that stuff. Maybe you're all chill, even if you're a beginner photographer. So let me know down in the comments if you take a second to check everything before you start. Write me down in the comments below. So my next tip for you that most beginner photographers make, but also the people that are being photographed usually make, is they stand up right close to the wall. Take your subject away from the wall, create some depth because it always looks better, believe me. So whenever somebody steps into your studio or you're taking a photo outside, people tend to stand right close to the wall because they're uncomfortable in the situations and they need some sort of backup, I don't know. But tell them to step away like 1 or 2 meters from the wall, create some depth because it's gonna make your image look much better. If you ever need to shoot right in front of the wall, maybe try to switch your perspective so you shoot along the wall if you have your subject right at the wall, so you have some depth again, and maybe you can get the patterns or a leading line of the wall as well. So create depth, step away from walls, and try to place your subject right in the room that you're in. Tip number 6 is use backlight, which means place your subject so the sun approaches them from behind. Whenever they have to look at the sun, they're gonna be blinded, or also there's gonna be shade on their eyes. So always try to use backlight. It usually looks much more flattering to your subject and creates a much more moody image. Try to light your subject from behind. Also, if you use strobes or something, there should always, of course this is a creative decision, but I personally think there should always be some sort of backlight. So my last tip for you is something I really had to learn the hard way, because I wasn't really structured with my files when coming home from shoots when I started out. So maybe try to find a structure. Whenever you finish a shoot, go back home, and then first thing you want to do, plug your SD card into your computer and back up your files. Also then clean your SD card once you have all the files saved, so you're prepared for the next shoot again. This is something very important to develop a routine, because then you don't struggle with, oh, have I backed up these images now whenever you're on the next shoot. You always have a same structure. This really helps out. I've had to learn this the hard way because I formatted like 2 or 3 cards when I started out that still had footage on there. I was really happy because I could recover it, but not everybody is just as lucky. So define a structure for yourself, how you organize your files, and define your workflow for after the shoot. That's a very important thing as well. So those were my 7 tips for starting out photographers that I wish I knew earlier, so you don't have to make those mistakes as well. I hope you really liked this video. If you did, please subscribe to this channel, ring the bell to be notified, and leave me down a comment if you have any questions. See you in the next video, and thanks so much for watching.